Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to speak on an issue of growing concern, both in my community and throughout British Columbia. It is one that needs to be addressed on a wider scale to keep people safe and ensure that our cities and towns are places where businesses can thrive and families can live without fear. Because right now, that is not the reality for far too many in our province. I have risen in this House in the past to speak on this issue of prolific offenders, and since then, in every corner of the province, the problem has worsened. Our province's current catch and release style approach is clearly not working, and it will take every level of government working together to bring about real change. Prolific offenders are generally described as individuals with a high criminal offence rate who are considered to be at high risk of reoffending following their release from custody. There is a growing consensus, Mr. Speaker, that a disproportionate amount of crime, particularly property crime, is committed by a minority of offenders, individuals who fall into the category of prolific offender. And we can see this throughout the province, in rural BC, downtown Vancouver, on Vancouver Island, and in Prince George. There is nowhere in this province, it seems, that is untouched by this issue. Just this week, an individual was arrested in downtown Vancouver for attempting to steal $730 worth of merchandise from a cosmetics store. This came only 2 days after the person was released from custody for allegedly stealing 47 pairs of yoga pants from a downtown store. Police reported that this man had 103 prior criminal convictions, 38 of those, for theft. In Prince George this week, 2 prolific offenders were arrested and discovered to be in possession of firearms in addition to other illicit items. In September, a man on Vancouver Island was sentenced to 44 months in prison for more than 60 charges, mostly relating to property crimes, including break-and-enters in multiple communities around the island. And in my own community last winter, the Williams Lake RCMP actually took the unusual step of issuing a news release about one individual who was arrested after failing to appear in court on 7 outstanding warrants. However, after a bail hearing that included opposition by Crown Counsel to release the offender, this individual was released again, despite 7 warrants and over 20 criminal charges. Mr. Speaker, this is a significant problem, and it is clear that it is not simply a matter of individual failure or responsibility, but one of systematic failure. Our system is not built in such a way as to truly address these situations like this. We are seeing the widespread impacts of these structural issues. Communities are feeling increasingly concerned and fearful. Businesses are not just feeling the economic impact, but the social impacts as well. The BC Chamber of Commerce highlighted in a 2019 report, and I quote, "The economic development of any community relies upon its reputation as a safe, viable region in which to locate and do business with supporting infrastructure, community assets, and most importantly, customers willing to walk in the door. However, if customers feel unsafe, they won't come. If the reputation of a region is suspect, businesses won't come." End quote. Unfortunately, this is becoming the reality in too many places around BC. We cannot continue to act as if the current approach is working. We cannot do the same thing over and over and expect that the result will be different. Results after the 2nd time, the 10th time, or the 100th time. We need to see action on this from every level of government. But, Mr. Speaker, it can start right here in this House and right here in this chamber. The Minister of Public Safety has himself noted to me that under the Police Act, it is his responsibility to ensure that an effective and adequate level of policing and law enforcement is maintained. Right now, I feel many of those police forces are stretched thin. The minister has also noted that he is responsible for setting the goals, objectives, and priorities for law enforcement throughout the province, and I hope that he recognizes that solving this crisis needs to be a priority. At the same time, we also know that this is not something that can be solved by policing alone. We need to take a closer look and examine the other gaps in our system that are contributing to this issue, Mr. Speaker. This will mean making better targeted investments in mental health and addiction supports, making sure that people have the help they need to get well. We also need to work to ensure that when people are released from custody, they are set on a path of success, rather than left on our streets with no support and nowhere to run. There is so much that we can do. In my communities in the Cariboo, here on Vancouver Island, and in every corner of this province, right now we are failing our communities, we are failing our businesses, and we are failing individuals who need far better supports. I hope that we can work together to address this issue and create safer, better supported communities throughout this province. I very much look forward to hearing from the member opposite about how the government will make progress on this goal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.